Welcome back to the Stephen A. Smith Show. Before I get on out of here, I had to talk about a story that's very, very important. And albeit indirectly, it involves...
Imagine a world where the biggest star in a professional sports league earns less than 1% of her income from playing the game. Now, imagine that same star being featured in a major commercial for the world's largest sportswear company, not with her peers, but with icons in the worlds of music and the NFL. This isn't a hypothetical future. This is a reality of Caitlin Clark and the WNBA right now. For nearly 2 years, whispers have swirled around the league. Rumors of jealousy, of resentment, of a quiet war between a new generation of stardom and the veterans who built the foundation. The narrative has been fueled by hard fouls, tense press conferences, and a glaring financial chasm that everyone could see, but few dared to fully explain. But a single commercial, released just days ago, may have been the moment the quiet war became impossible to ignore. It exposed a fundamental truth. Caitlin Clark isn't just playing in the WNBA. She is operating in an entirely different financial universe. And the gap between her and the rest of the league has turned into a canyon that no amount of tradition or team spirit can bridge. Before we get started, if you're as fascinated by the forces changing sports as I am, make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Hit that like button and ring the bell, because we're going deep into a story that is reshaping the business of basketball before our eyes. The trigger for this latest chapter wasn't a game-winning shot or a controversial call. It was a carefully crafted piece of marketing. Over the holidays, Nike dropped its From Anywhere campaign, a cinematic ad hyping the upcoming launch of Clark's signature shoe, the Caitlin Ones, slated for 2026. On the surface, it was a celebration of an athlete, but if you look closer, it was a statement of seismic proportions. The ad didn't feature WNBA legends. It didn't showcase her Indiana Fever teammates. Instead, it positioned Clark alongside rapper Travis Scott, NFL superstars Jason and Travis Kelce, and comedian Michael Che. This was a deliberate, calculated move by a data-driven corporate machine. Nike wasn't just selling a basketball player to basketball fans. They were introducing a crossover icon to the world. The message was clear and brutal in its simplicity. Caitlin Clark's appeal and marketability had transcended the ecosystem of the WNBA. She no longer needs the league's validation. She has outgrown its traditional boundaries before even completing her first full professional season. By associating her with pop culture and NFL royalty, Nike signaled that her brand exists on a plane separate from the league that employs her. She wasn't being presented as the best rookie in the WNBA. She was being anointed as the next global face of Nike basketball, period. This commercial wasn't just an ad. It was a coronation that happened outside the walls of the WNBA's kingdom, and it laid bare the league's struggle to control its own hottest commodity. This strategic positioning by Nike is part of a much larger, company-wide pivot. For years, Nike has been criticized for struggling to authentically connect with the women's market, often accused of a superficial, shrink-it-and-pink-it approach and facing internal cultural challenges. Now, under new leadership, including brand president Amy Montaigne, Nike is making a concerted effort to win over women, not just as consumers, but as essential figures of their storytelling. The From Anywhere spot is a direct descendant of their monumental So Win campaign, which aired during the Super Bowl for the first time in 27 years. That ad, featuring Clark, Aya Wilson, and Sha'Carri Richardson, tackled the double standards faced by female athletes head-on with the defiant tagline, "Whatever you do, you can't win. So, win." It became a viral sensation, racking up over 66 million views on Instagram in a single day and winning the prestigious Super Clio Award. By placing Clark in the From Anywhere narrative alongside non-basketball icons, Nike is executing the same playbook, elevating women athletes to the pinnacle of popular culture and framing them as rebellious, transcendent figures. They are treating Clark with the same brand-building intensity once reserved for icons like Michael Jordan. The commercial cleverly weaves in Clark's signature logo, the interlocking CS unveiled in August, on her sweatshirt, planting the seed for a standalone brand identity. This isn't just about moving sneaker units. It's about constructing a legend. While the WNBA focuses on league parity and a team-first ethos, Nike's marketing screams that Clark is a singular phenomenon, a generational talent whose story and appeal are bigger than any single team or even the league itself. This creates an undeniable tension as the corporate narrative around an individual player begins to overpower the collective narrative of a sport. To understand the tension, you have to follow the money because the numbers are so extreme they defy belief. The resentment some observers point to isn't just about fame or headlines. It's rooted in a financial disparity that is almost incomprehensible within a team sport. In 2024, Caitlin Clark's total earnings were an estimated $11.1 million. Of that, a mere $100,000, roughly 1%, came from her WNBA salary and bonuses. The other 99%, a cool $11 million, flowed from endorsement deals with giants like Nike, Gatorade, and State Farm. In 2025, that gap widened even further. Despite an injury-shortened season, her total income ballooned to an estimated $16.1 million. Her take-home from the Fever? Just $114,000. That means 99.3% of her record-breaking annual pay came from sponsors. Let's put her WNBA contract in perspective. As the number 1 overall pick, she signed a standard 4-year rookie deal worth $338,056. Her 2024 base salary was $76,535. For comparison, the number 1 pick in the 2024 NBA draft, Zachary Rizicher, signed a 4-year contract worth $57 million with a first-year salary of $12.6 million. The highest base salary in the WNBA for 2024 was about $252,450. In the NBA, Stephen Curry earns over $55 million in a single season. This gulf exists because of revenue. The average NBA team generates over $400 million, while a WNBA team brings in around $18 million. The leagues are simply in different financial galaxies. But Clark's situation creates a unique and volatile dynamic inside the league. She walks into a locker room where veterans have grinded for a decade to earn a maximum salary that is a fraction of what she makes in a month from endorsements. She is a rookie in terms of tenure, but a corporate CEO in terms of wealth and influence. This isn't just a pay gap. It's a complete decoupling of an individual's economic reality from the league salary structure. When one player generates more wealth from a single sneaker deal, a reported $28 million over 8 years with Nike, than most of their peers will see in their entire careers, it introduces a psychological and competitive variable that the sport has never had to manage before. The most shocking part is that even these eye-popping endorsement figures are just a tiny fraction of her true economic impact. Industry experts and economists have attempted to quantify the Caitlin Clark effect, and the numbers are astronomical. One finance professor from Indiana University Columbus calculated that Clark was responsible for a staggering 26.5% of all WNBA economic activity in her rookie season, from tickets and TV to merchandise. His projection for her 2025 impact eclipsed $875 million and could easily reach $1 billion. An industry source told The Athletic it was hard to believe she's not worth close to $1 billion to the league. This value is reflected in exploding franchise valuations. The Indiana Fevers were skyrocketed 273% from 2024 to 2025, and the average WNBA team's valuation rose 180% in that same period. Economists compare her effect to that of Michael Jordan in the 1990s, who was found to generate over $50 million for other NBA teams through gate and TV revenue. Similarly, Clark is making opposing owners 7 figures when she shows up. Yet, the structure of the WNBA makes it impossible to pay her what she's worth, as her own agent has stated. Unlike the NBA, where players get roughly 50% of basketball-related income, WNBA players' salaries account for less than 10% of total league revenue. The league's hard team salary cap of $1.5 million is a hard ceiling spread across 12 players. So, while Clark's presence is single-handedly driving historic media deals, like the new 11-year agreement with USA Network, and making every owner vastly richer, the mechanism to funnel that new wealth back to the players, especially the one driving it, is broken. She has $1 billion engine locked inside $1 million chassis, and everyone in Garage knows it. This financial earthquake has manifested in very physical ways on the basketball court. From the moment Clark entered the league, she has been subjected to a level of physical scrutiny and aggressive defense that has become a major storyline. Fans and analysts have watched as she's been shoved, hip-checked, and fouled hard, often in sequences where the retaliation seems disproportionate to the play. The debate has raged. Is this just competitive, physical WNBA basketball, or is there something more at play? Many observers, including commentators and podcasts, have pointed directly to the jealousy narrative. The argument is that veteran players, who endured years of commercial flights, empty arenas, and minimal marketing, resent a rookie who arrives with unprecedented fanfare, record TV deals, and generational wealth from endorsements before proving herself in the league. As one podcast host argued, Clark is seen as having gotten fast-track fame, which can feel like an erasure of the long, hard work others put in to build the league to this point. This sentiment is compounded by the perception, rightly or wrongly, that the league itself has been slow to protect its new star. Commentators have questioned why Clark isn't given the same protective superstar calls that players like LeBron James or Steph Curry receive in the NBA when facing overly physical defense. Her own coach, Stephanie White, has publicly called for officials to get control of it. This creates a perfect storm. A player with a massive target on her back, due to her popularity and wealth, playing in an environment where the enforcement of the rules is under intense scrutiny. Every hard foul is now microanalyzed not just as a basketball play, but as a symbol of this broader cultural and economic conflict within the sport. The target theory is given weight by the sheer, measurable impact of her absence. When Clark missed games with injury, the effect was immediate and stark. One analysis showed viewership for Fever games on NBA TV dropped by 40% when she wasn't playing. A marquee matchup against the Chicago Sky drew 30% fewer viewers on CBS without her. Perhaps most tellingly, resale tickets for a Sky Fever game at the United Center plummeted by about 70% after her injury was announced. This isn't just about fans liking one player. It's about her being the primary engine of demand. For veterans who have fought for recognition and respect for years, this reality is a double-edged sword. On one hand, Clark is undeniably bringing unprecedented attention and revenue that benefits everyone. On the other hand, it can feel delegitimizing to have a rookie's presence or absence swing the financial viability of a game by such wild margins. It creates a scenario where her very existence in the league seems to reset the rules of value and merit. The physical play can be interpreted as an attempt to test her, to make her earn it in a way that aligns with the traditional, grinded-out ethos of the league. Furthermore, Nike's own So-In campaign explicitly called out this kind of scrutiny, highlighting how female athletes are told they can't have an attitude, can't deliver, and can't fill a stadium. Clark is living that narrative in real time, facing criticism for everything from her demeanor to her defense, all while objectively filling arenas and shattering records. The hard fouls, therefore, become more than just basketball. They are a complex reaction, a mix of competition, frustration, and a rebuke against a system that anoints one star so lavishly while the collective remains underpaid. It's a painful, public working out of the jealousy and growing pains that come with sudden, uneven growth. The league now finds itself in an almost impossible bind, caught between celebrating its golden goose and maintaining cohesion among its veteran players. Commissioner Kathy Engelbert has tried to frame the conversation around total compensation, pointing to marketing agreements and bonuses beyond base salary. She has suggested a top player could make up to $700,000 when all avenues are considered, a claim some active players have publicly disputed as unrealistic. The league has tools like the Player Marketing Agreement, PMA, which can pay stars up to $250,000 to serve as brand ambassadors for the league and its partners. Furthermore, rookies are typically not eligible for the PMA until after their first season, meaning the league's own system couldn't initially be used to financially integrate its most marketable asset. The WNBA strategy for years was about promoting parity and a league of many stars. Caitlin Clark's arrival, driven by corporate America rather than league marketing, has completely upended that model. Nike's all-in bet on a single star highlights what some see as a strategic failure by the league to capitalize on her arrival from day one. The league is trying to negotiate a new collective bargaining agreement, with players opting out of the current deal immediately after the 2024 finals, demanding their rightful share of the business they've helped grow. Clark's presence is the ultimate leverage in those talks, as her popularity is directly responsible for soaring ratings, sold-out arenas, and new media interest. Yet, this very leverage exacerbates the internal tensions. How does a league negotiate for the collective good when one individual's economic impact is so disproportionately large? The WNBA must find a way to let Clark's rise rising tide lift all boats through increased revenue sharing, higher salaries, and better benefits, without letting the resentment over who is steering the ship capsize it. The path forward is fraught with structural challenges. The league's historic new media rights deals, worth about $200 million annually starting in 2026, were agreed upon before the 2024 season, and the full force of Clark Mania was evident. This means the league's single biggest revenue stream for the next decade was already locked in before it could fully monetize its new most valuable asset. There's a look-in provision in 3 years to potentially increase the deal's value, but experts are skeptical it will lead to massive immediate changes. Even if all the new TV money went to players, the maximum salary might only reach around $1.25 million, still a fraction of Clark's external worth. The core issue is ownership and revenue sharing. The NBA owns a significant stake in the WNBA, diluting team owners' share of the pie. A true 50-50 revenue split between owners and players, common in men's sports, isn't even a provision in the current CBA. The players are essentially fighting for a fair share of a pie whose recipe was written before its most vital ingredient was discovered. Furthermore, the league is expanding, adding teams in Golden State, Toronto, and Portland, which spreads revenue but also creates more jobs and investment. The league's challenge is to harness this period of hypergrowth to fundamentally rewrite its financial rulebook. It must create a system where the next Caitlin Clark, or more importantly, the next Aya Wilson, Breanna Stewart, or Sabrina Ionescu can be compensated in a way that reflects their true market value within the league, not just outside of it. This means aggressively renegotiating everything from revenue splits to salary caps, and perhaps even pioneering new models like individual marketing pools or equity grants. The alternative is a permanent disconnect where the league's biggest stars are essentially independent contractors building their empires on the WNBA's platform, a dynamic that is unsustainable for long-term competitive balance and locker room harmony. The significance of the Nike from Anywhere commercial goes far beyond sports marketing. It represents a cultural reset for how a women's basketball player is perceived and packaged. By featuring Travis Scott and the Kelsey brothers, Nike isn't just borrowing their fame. It's inserting Caitlin Clark into the mainstream cultural conversation alongside the biggest names in music and the most popular sports league in America, the NFL. This crossover appeal is the holy grail. It means Clark isn't just attracting existing women's basketball fans. She's pulling in NFL fans, hip-hop fans, and casual observers who may never have watched a WNBA game. Her surprise appearance on Saturday Night Live earlier in her career was another step in this direction, polishing her profile as a relatable, media-savvy personality beyond the court. This cultural positioning acts as both a shield and a wedge. It shields her because any perceived mistreatment on the court now risks backlash from a much broader, more powerful general public. But also drives a wedge deeper within the league, as it highlights a level of mainstream acceptance and celebrity that previous WNBA stars, despite their greatness, rarely achieved. It touches on uncomfortable conversations about race, marketing, and who gets anointed as a crossover star in a league that is predominantly black. The commercial forces of reckoning. Is the future of the WNBA a tightly knit niche league, or can it embrace a model where its biggest stars become global icons who exist both within and far beyond the confines of the sport? Nike, with its billions on the line, has clearly chosen its answer. Nike's choice is part of a deliberate and high-stakes corporate strategy. For decades, the company has been trying and often failing to build a deep, authentic connection with women consumers, facing criticism for a boys' club culture and losing major stars like Allison Felix and Simone Biles. The current moment, with Clark at the forefront, represents their biggest push yet. The So Win campaign and Clark's solo commercial are flagship initiatives under a new leadership team led by women, including brand president Amy Montaigne. They are betting that women's sports, and women's basketball in particular, are not a niche market, but the future of cultural relevance. The numbers support this. Clark ranks in the top 20 of all athletes in merchandise sales on Fanatics, and 6th among all basketball players, men included. All WNBA merchandise sales on the platform increased by over 500% in her rookie year. Nike is not just selling Clark. It's using her to sell an entire category they believe has been undervalued. This creates a fascinating dynamic. On one hand, it validates the league and its athletes as powerful commercial entities. On the other, it risks creating a tiered system within the sport itself. While Clark is featured with Travis Scott, other elite stars like Aya Wilson are receiving incredible support from Nike through campaigns deeply tied to their personal identity and community, like Wilson's Aone Pink Aura launch. The question becomes whether the ecosystem can support multiple megastars at this level, or if the corporate and media spotlight will remain overwhelmingly focused on one name. The cultural reset, therefore, isn't just about Clark breaking out. It's about whether the entire WNBA can transition from a sports league into a culture-shaping entertainment property with multiple household names. The success or failure of that transition will determine the league's financial and cultural footprint for a generation. As we look to the future, every move will be magnified. The hype for the Caitlyn 1 signature shoe, arriving in 2026, will be a litmus test for her true commercial power. The WNBA's next media rights deal will essentially be the Caitlin Clark negotiations, with networks paying a premium for the games she drives viewership for. The league's officiating will be watched more closely than ever. Will they consciously or unconsciously start giving her protective calls that come with superstar status? And if so, what will that do to locker room dynamics? The physical play will be scrutinized with every drive to the basket, and the fundamental business model will be stressed. Can the WNBA create a system where its veterans are paid commensurate with the new value Clark is generating, and fast enough to prevent the internal friction from boiling over? Or will the league remain a platform where true generational wealth is only available to those who, like Clark, transcend it? Her story is no longer just about points, assists, and wins. It is a real-time case study in the collision of sport, money, culture, and human nature. The From Anywhere commercial didn't just sell sneakers. It exposed a new reality. Caitlin Clark is playing basketball in the WNBA, but she is building an empire far beyond it. The question for everyone else is not whether they can catch up, but whether they can find a way to coexist in the vast space she now occupies. The immediate battleground is the collective bargaining agreement. The players have opted out, and negotiations are underway with the new TV money as a central focus. The outcome will define the next decade. Will players secure a much larger share of basketball-related income, moving from less than 10% toward the NBA's 50% model? Will they create mechanisms to better reward individual marketability within the league's cap structure? The league, for its part, must balance rewarding its workforce with funding expansion and long-term stability. Beyond the CBA, all eyes are on the look-in provision for the media rights in 2029. If Clark's momentum continues, it could be the lever to pull for another historic payday. On the court, the narrative will evolve. Rivalries with Angel Reese and others will continue to draw massive crowds, but the league needs more teams to become must-see TV even when Clark isn't in the building. The expansion teams in Toronto and Portland will test whether the league's growth is durable and widespread. For Clark personally, the release of her signature shoe in 2026 is her true entry into the pantheon of sports icons. Its success will determine her long-term place in the Nike empire and set a new benchmark for what's possible in women's sports endorsements. Ultimately, the goal for the WNBA is to reach a point where a player's value isn't a shocking anomaly, but a celebrated benchmark, where the next generational talent doesn't highlight the system's flaws, but benefits from a system strong enough to contain her star power. The journey from here to there will be the most important game the WNBA has ever played.